How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome to the house in Fata Morgana, where things have taken a really interesting turn. I honestly, a genuinely unexpected turn, though it wasn't without like its own hints in the narrative. I just missed it. I was caught up on all the other details, but we're learning about the history of Michel. Well, Michel, which was Michel, like the actual feminine version. Because he effectively is a trans character, which is really interesting because I don't know if I've ever seen a story told from the perspective of such. And someone in the comments last episode said that like this was one of the reasons why they really liked this visual novel, because it has an interesting representation and it does it so well. And I do agree 100% with that. I think a good story, no matter what source it is, visual novel, book, movie, anything, the best stories are the ones that teach you perspectives you might not ever consider normally. A great example of this personally that I've always been a big advocate for ever since I read it when I was in high school was Les Miserables. Les Mis, the tale of pretty much the dark side of humanity in general. I mean, like, it's told from the perspective of a criminal, a prostitute, a orphan child, like the sides of society that we tend to shun, ignore, or pretend don't exist or have no value. And it takes their stories and elevates them to a human level, because they are human, and we shouldn't discredit them for what they do and who they are, and that story does a great job of that. And this isn't a great example too. Like, there's so much to this story. The House in Fata Morgana is just so deep and has so many layers to it. But Michel's story, I think, is going to be a good revelation of the understanding of, I don't know, the struggle of kind of having feelings that are, I don't know, can often be dismissed or brushed under the rug or hardly considered by the majority of people, because most of us don't have to deal with it. But these emotions are real, these feelings are legitimate, and we don't even understand properly where it all comes from or how it happens. But that really doesn't matter, because people are people. Just because somebody's experience is different than what yours is doesn't mean that you can judge. But the thing is that until you really think about that, you probably don't come to that conclusion. Growing up, I certainly never thought about what it would be like to be trans, or to know someone who was going through a transition, or even imagine the backlash that people who are trying to be honest about themselves with themselves and their friends and family could experience. Granted, this is also back in a time when it would be very, very much not supported by society, so it's a rough time for Michel to be going through this. But that's the thing, it's like, I mean, I'm sure it happened. I'm sure it's always been around ever since humanity's been intelligent. And so it is kind of sad to think about the people who have had these types of feelings and emotions in the past, who, you know, if they ever express themselves, likely were facing death, you know, as heretics or sinners. You know, that's why we probably didn't hear much about it. It's because of the fear and the literal physical, like, danger you'd be in if you admitted what you felt. But anyway, enough about that. It's pretty clear where we're going for this. So I imagine we're going to get the conclusion of the seventh door. I just whistled there. That was weird. We're going to be seeing kind of how it came about that the truth came out, that his mother kind of cracked under the strain of understanding that her daughter really isn't a daughter, doesn't want to be a daughter, and doesn't feel like a daughter in any way. And that's gonna break her, break her. It's so interesting. I can't believe I never even thought of it. Like, I totally assumed that it was his skin and hair color. That's so crazy. Anyway, let's jump into this. It was the spring of my 14th year. Heavy clouds filled the sky, blocking out the sun and giving the impression of late evening all throughout the day. I, for one, preferred it when the sun wasn't out. Not that sunlight would kill me, but if it was bright enough, the whole world seemed so wide I could hardly see a thing. Which meant I could only go outside on days when the weather made most everyone else gloomy. As I was meandering through the courtyard. Oh, hello, who's that? I spotted someone I had never seen before. Oh, this is... He referenced that he had a crush before, but like, she was the betrothed of his brother, and that it would never work. Man, that was a decent summary. Spot someone I'd never seen before. A warm breeze blew past, sending up a swirl of flower petals. The girl's dress hung lightly over her frame, tracing her gentle curves. Who are you? I asked bluntly, and the girl twirled around, smiling. My apologies. You just have a beautiful courtyard here, and I let myself go in for a little walk. Is it Amy? Like, just a weird spelling of Amy? Long chestnut hair flowed over round feminine shoulders. It swayed slightly in the wind. The cloud of melancholy dissipated in the light of her smile. You must be Michel. You're just as pretty as I heard. And you are? My name is Amy. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Finally, meet me? What was she talking about? As I stood there baffled by the strange woman, she stepped toward me, kissing me softly on the cheek. I'm thrilled to make your acquaintance, Michel. Her voice was like someone pouring honey into my ear. Electrifyingly sweet. She looks very pretty, too. I'm Gregor's fiance. And it also stuck another needle into my chest. And how confusing. How confusing and frustrating. She was a noble girl by the name of Amy Gilbert. Or Hilbert, I don't know. Although only 15, she was the very image of refined, polished to a shine. No one had told me my brother was to be married. Anyway, it came out of nowhere, and it seemed I was the only one who didn't know. That evening, when the family gathered around the table for supper, Amy was there too, and they prepared an extravagant feast for the occasion. My father, Antonin, looked so proud of his two boys. Dieter soon to receive his assignment, and George's soon to be wed. The banquet proceeded smoothly. Not a doubt in the air that we were a happy family, but my mind was elsewhere. I found myself unconsciously chasing Amy with my eyes, watching the ways those slender fingers gripped her spoon, her full lips parting to allow a piece of fruit in, her deep red tongue visible for but the briefest of moments. The way all the muscles in her face seemed to relax in bliss as sweet juices seeped into her mouth. The way she spoke, so soft and gentle, letting each sound hang in the air just briefly before the intoning the next. She was distinctly feminine, in a different way than my mother. Apparently, Amy was going to be living in the Bollinger estate for some time. Mother was pleased to have another girl around. Or more specifically, she was relieved to have someone other than my brothers and for me to spend time with. I'd assumed I would hate being around another girl. Surely she wouldn't be able to play chess after all. But for some reason, I felt much less suffocated around her than my mother. One night, Amy's family had an array of nobles from both houses both nobles from both houses' social circles assembled at the estate for a party. That's a mouthful. A din like that, the likes of which I had never heard in my life, filled the great hall. Everywhere I looked, there were people. Servants scrambled every which way, silverware clanged against dishes in almost constant hum, voices from all directions. I felt moderately ill. Hey, Dee! I feel like we're critically short on waiters. This doesn't look good for us. And who was it who went about inviting everyone who came across again? Who are those people? They're artists like me. I met them at court. Let's see, we have some painters, composers, sculptors, troubadours, poets, writers, you name it. None of them have any connection to the Gilberts or Bollingers. They sure do, they're my friends. And you know, this is me and Amy's party. You could play with your friends elsewhere. I hope you realize we have a reputation to uphold. Off in one corner, several men, presumably Georgia's friends, gathered in a circle. They stood out from the other aristocrats, both in appearance and the air they gave off. The clothes they wore, the embroidery hidden beneath their jacket cuffs. Their manner of speech, the way they held themselves. They were, simply put, a far cry from the hard-headed Dieter's ideal party guests. Even watching them from afar, it was clear my two brothers ran in very different crowds. The only reason headstrong Dieter and free-spirited Georges were able to get along at all was because they were brothers. Oh man, I hope Georges wasn't somehow responsible for hunting down Michel. Like, because remember, he's joining an order of knights, and like, it was an order of knights that came to get him. That would suck. I hope not. If they had been strangers, I doubt their paths would have crossed much, and if they did, those intersections would have been quite rocky. Yeah. Hey, come here, guys! George's shouting voice pulled my preoccupied mind back to the surface. He summoned his friends, then led them to where I stood. What are you doing hiding in the corner, Michel? I didn't even notice you. Allow me to introduce you to a few of my friends. Oh, no, George just put his hand on my shoulder, peeling me off the wall and standing me in front of his male friends. Socialization was the last thing on my mind. I searched for Dieter, hoping he would come to my rescue, but he was off trading pleasantries, facing away from me. This is my baby sister, Michel. Be nice. Georges, I don't... Gracious, your skin's even more pale than I imagined. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And why have you never brought her with you to court? She's sure to be a hit. And how are you now? How old are you now? 12, mayhap? Now, don't treat the lady like a child. I'll have you know she's 14. All the more reason she should be out there making friends. The whole court would flip if they knew they had such a gorgeous sister. You had such a gorgeous sister, Georges. Don't be a brute, my man. Our little angel has been kept inside for personal reasons. Uh-oh, sounds like I haven't been showing the lady here her due respect. I have yet to even properly introduce myself. How rude indeed. Their laughter grated on my nerves, and so did the way Georgia spoke as though I was his property. They looked like they were praising me, which made me sick to my stomach. I had been paying enough attention to notice the man who had asked if I was 12, and the rest of them too, examining me from head to toe in search of curves. I was indeed underdeveloped for 14. But what did that matter? I didn't want a body shaped like Amy's or my mother's. Now then, milady, a proper greeting. The man got down on one knee before me. For a split second, I didn't comprehend what he was doing. Go on, Michel. He's waiting. He whispered into my ear. That was when it all came back to me, that traditional greeting performed between a man and a woman. Come on, Michel. Don't tell me you forgot what to do. I knew the process. I had that knowledge. Father had taught me the rules, showed me the procedure. I was to present my hand to the man for him to kiss. All I had to do was hold out my hand, but I was frozen. My body fought tooth and nail against the simple act. The thought that man putting his lips on my skin sent a chill through me. Why? Why was this a traditional greeting? Why did I have to go through this? Michel! But at the sound of Gregor's frantic voice, my arm creaked up from my side. Then I remembered that despite being his friends, they were still nobility. As wanton as his social interactions may have been, he still had a reputation to maintain. And I understood that. I also understood that, as their sister, it was my responsibility not to do anything that might tarnish either of my brothers' names. Fetch, man. Noble society. Like, there's a part of me that I think if I were born into that, like, there's a part of me that would enjoy the games. There's a part of me that would enjoy dancing social circles, you know, wagging tongues and discretion and conversation. I get how to do that kind of stuff. I'm pretty good at, like, speaking my mind in a way that's very clear and not easy to misinterpret or misunderstand. I usually tend to smooth out things rather than make them more complicated when I interact with people, but there's a lot of stuff that I just wouldn't be able to stand at all. I mean, I'd hate the propriety. You definitely want to, like, tell people to stuff themselves and leave, but can't really do that, and especially because the biggest pricks tend to be the most important ones, you know? So, it'd be interesting. Would I ever want to be born into this time period as a noble? Absolutely not. But I like to think I could make the most of it. I could play the game. Maybe I'd make a better merchant. Where I could play the game with the nobles, but I wouldn't have to actually be noble. I don't know. I also don't like business at the same time. The proper way to do it requires a simple mimic of the act, rather than make real contact. That much I could handle. The man kneeling before me gave me an uncomfortable chuckle. My reluctance shrugged and reverently took my hand in his. And then he pressed his lips firmly against my skin. There was a vague, warm sensation on the back of my hand for the briefest of moments. What did you... Reflexively, I smacked the man's hand away. That's not gonna go over well. I don't blame you, but... not gonna go over well. George's eyes went wide in horror, and the man gave another playful shrug. I was merely offering you a greeting, my lady. Or is it even a new experience to you? Your innocence is truly precious. I was half a second away from throwing a barrage of insults, but I bit my tongue and stomped off instead. What? Michel? Hey, come back, Michel! I had spent all that time convincing myself I couldn't humiliate my brothers, but now I wouldn't hear a word of it. I had drawn a fair bit of attention, and other people tried to stop me too, but I brushed them all off, marching my way out of the great hall. Well, here comes the fallout. I feel so dirty. You call that a greeting? No, that was no greeting. That was... I'll be taking that. I say, practically swiping a glass of water off a passing waiter's tray. With it, I washed my hand by the window facing the courtyard. But no matter how much water I poured on it, I couldn't erase the sickening sensation of his mouth on my hand. So I rubbed it with my sleeve until my skin was bright red. I really wanted to feel something else, anything else, even pain. Think before you act, Georges. What were you doing inviting people like that into our home? I was angry. I had every right to be. He had not performed a proper greeting. Even in jest, he had no business actually putting his lips on my hand. It was not acceptable behavior for an aristocrat. He was a guest. He should have been ashamed. Was I angry that he'd been disrespectful? No, that wasn't the reason. It was... I wasn't very nice of you, running off like that. At the sound of his voice, I couldn't turn back. I felt the sickening warmth almost directly against my back. Oh no. The man from the great hall grabbed me by the wrist and spun me around and pressed me against the wall. Alright, not a fan. Bitter scent of wine wafted from above. What the heck are you doing? I tried for a second time to get away from him, and that was when reality sunk in. Couldn't do it. All the strength I could muster wasn't enough to make this man's hand budge. My arms were locked in place. Didn't think he was especially strong either. He was hardly built like Dieter. Still, I couldn't move an inch. You have a tongue like a boy, milady. But I know some people that these days. People fond of that these days. Can't say I mind myself. Let go! Had it always been this feeble? Were my arms truly so worthless I couldn't even escape this brute's grip? Why did I have to get stuck with this body? Now, just so we're clear, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm no monster, I promise you that. Then why are you holding me against the wall? Because I want a chance to try and woo you. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable back there, but the second I laid eyes on you, I knew you were a keeper. Then let go of me! But if I do that, you'll run away. And it's my personal rule to never let go of anything I like. Fetch, man! Your brother says you can't go outside, so if I set you loose now, I might never get the chance to catch you again. I wanted to vomit. Apparently, taking my silence for approval, the man perked up and kept going. If you're not accustomed to being around men, then why not use this opportunity to get familiar? Not a half-bad idea, if I do say so myself. And I think we'd get along quite well. Besides, I'm a minstrel. Spend some time with me and I'll write you all the songs you could possibly want. Get away from me. Ah, so you do have the most striking eyes. See, I don't get. Obviously it's all pretext and it's all just fluff. But how can you possibly claim to be interested in somebody, to like somebody, who want to woo somebody, to literally not even listen to a word they're saying? Like, it's disgusting. And there are people who actually like this, and it's horrible. I don't know. Like, it pisses me off. Like, I understand, like, being manly man is the thing, and if you want to be the manly man, that's fine, but, like, obviously when someone doesn't want you around or isn't interested in your advances, like, why can't they just back off? I don't know. Some people just can't take no for an answer, and that leads down some very dangerous roads, and it sucks because throughout so much of history, like, can you imagine the amount of women who were accosted, assaulted, abused, who never had a chance to speak up about it because, you know, society didn't really care, or it wasn't proper, or they outrank you, can't do anything about it. Fetch, man. It's just, ugh. I'm itchy all over with this. It just feels gross right now. I hate it. And there's a good reason for hating it, but good grief. Makes me want to keep them all for myself. With a muse like that, I could write the most incredible songs you've ever heard. I said get back, you creep. Huh, that's odd. That one's never failed me. The man brought his face just inches of mine and peered into my eyes. I could feel his hot, wine-stenched breath against my cheeks. It gave me the chills. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. Panic and confusion had my heart racing. Go try your luck with someone else. I'm not interested. You will be soon enough, darling. You've simply never known a man's touch. Fetch. Okay, again. I don't know why. There is this attitude of some reason, like the chads of the world. Can I use that word, chads, for the situation? Seem to think that, like, I don't know, like, being touchy-feely is some kind of a gift. Like, that act alone is like, oh, like, I will allow you to do this with me, kind of a thing. It's like, no. It's always, like stuff like embraces, emotions, kissing, that kind of thing. It's all about, you know, mutual understanding. Anybody who can honestly, genuinely get pleasure by forcing themselves on somebody, I cannot fathom that type of thinking at all. I cannot. It boggles my mind, and it sucks because it happens, but it blows me away that it can even happen. Like, I never could. I don't think I could even do it drunk. Like, I don't think I could ever be like that, but then again, I'm probably never going to find out since I don't like drinking, so I'll stay sane, thank you very much. He drew closer. He was already practically on top of me, but he still drew closer, still closed in. Come on, brother Dieter, show up, please. Closer and closer. The world faded out. I couldn't see anything. Could feel his rising body heat so near me made me nauseous. My eyes flung open, but there was nothing there. I could only feel... Oh gosh. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't budge. My mind had kicked the man away, pulled my fist back and slammed it into his jaw. Again and again and again until his face was unrecognizable. Again and again and again and again I beat him. The reality would have none of that. Michel! Hey, what do you think you're doing? 3 seconds? 10 seconds longer? I had no idea how much time I had lost. But the next thing I knew, Georges had the man by the collar. I fell back against the wall, staring absentmindedly as the two struggled. They traded blows and they traded insults. Before long, they had drawn a crowd. While they were at it, I distinctly drifted away. I only had one place to go. I didn't even bother to light a candle. I just stared into the darkness. My heartbeat was maddeningly loud in my otherwise silent chambers. What had happened? What had he done to me? Why couldn't I do anything? I kind of don't want to know how far that got. Could you imagine, though? The last thing I wanted to do was cry. Tears will only serve to worsen my humiliation. Only magnify how wretched I was. They make me more effete. Gosh darn it, no. Crying is healing. And like, that's the other thing that's really sad too. Gosh darn it. Why do victims have to feel like they're the ones who are dirty? Why do the victims feel like they're the ones that have the problem? Like, it happens all the time. Why though? Like, it's so wrong. I bit down my lip hard. I had no need for that trash on my body. I dug my nails into my arms. I had no need for that trash on my body. All of this, every last bit of it. This was why I was the way I was. Right now I have hiccups. I'm so upset I have hiccups now. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't know how to express the boundless frustration within me. But after enough wordless groaning, a single word escaped from my lips, and it felt incredibly right. God damn it. I knew good and well a girl should not be using such words. But Dieter and Georges would have gotten an earful from mother and father if they were caught saying that. Regardless. God. It was the most fitting word I could come up with to represent even the smallest bit of my anger and loathing. I knew that all of it was shifting the blame, that all it would accomplish would make me look pitiful, but I would take that over crying like a girl any day. I let loose a sigh that was halfway to being a scream and started chewing wildly at my hair. I wanted to yank out every last strand of it. I didn't want it. I didn't want any of it. Any of this body. But in that case, what did I want from my body? Michel? May I come in, Michel? It was Georgia's voice, slightly muffled through the door. The man who had invited those people into this house. I would be lying if I said I didn't hold that against him. Michel! But at the same time, he'd also come to my rescue. Besides, I hated myself the most. I despised myself for being so helpless. I'm sorry, Michel. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's not locked. After a few moments of silence, Georgia stepped into my room. Your hair's a mess, Michel. And you're bleeding. That was when I first noticed the stinging sensation in my lower lip. A metallic taste spreading through my mouth. I'd been biting it so much harder than I realized. And there's a lot more blood than I expected. A trail of it was running down my chin, seconds from spilling onto my clothes, but George just wiped it away. I'm really sorry, Michel. He could be a real... but when he drinks... And he's a bit of a womanizer at that. I never expected he'd try to go after you, though. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. But, you know, there's a chance that he might have, genuinely taken a liking to you. Screw you. It's bullcrap if you think that's okay. That just makes it worse. Sorry. You're right. You want to be with the man you like. I understand. He ran his hands through my hair as if trying to calm me down, at the same time clearing up the mess I'd made of it. It made me feel like I was some kind of plaything. A joke of a doll. I don't want to be with anyone. I would never, ever be comfortable with a man putting his hands on me like that. However, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually, Michel. Someone that feels right for you. I feel kind of awful for introducing you to him, but But there are plenty of men in the world. You might not be interested right now, but that'll change soon. It's part of growing up. You'd be best off forgetting today ever happened. I was dead and certain, but apparently that wasn't enough to convince him. The very idea that I might one day meet a man who I wanted to touch made my skin crawl. Why? Why did it feel like this? Was I just not interested in men? No, if that were the case, I wouldn't admire my brother's bodies. I didn't have an aversion to men. In fact, I enjoyed spending time with my brothers far more than indulging my mother in her woman's world. What I couldn't stand was the peculiar look men would sometimes give me. But why? Why did I not like that? I had no answer. My thoughts were only going in circles. Are you okay, Michel? He peered down at me, his face twisted in concern. But I couldn't answer him. How was I supposed to articulate this? My anger, my frustration, my irritation, my fear? I had no confidence he would understand. Georges, how's Michel? Amy's voice came from the doorway. Inexplicably, it felt like someone had struck their hand in my chest and was now squeezing my heart. Likely, like I had just been caught in a compromising situation by the last person I wanted to see me. Ah, yes, she's doing good. Aren't you? Yes, I'm fine. Glad to hear. I was clearly lying, not even looking him in the eye when I'd said that, but it seemed to have gone over George's head. Amy, on the other hand... You don't look fine at all, she said, a hint of pain in her voice, and then entered the room. Georges, Father was asking for you. He says it's time to bring the gathering to a close. You should get going. I'll stay here with her. Oh, is he? Alright then. Sounds good. Once the sound of George's footsteps had faded into nothing, Amy took a seat beside me without warning, wrapped her arms around my shoulders. It's much better to talk to another girl at times like this. My heart leapt into my throat, but beyond the shock, I also found myself welcoming the warmth. It was pleasant, unlike a man's. That must have been terrifying, but don't worry, you're safe now. It wasn't really... No need to pretend, sweetie. If a man had me pinned against the wall, I'd be scared too. I mean it. I wasn't scared. I'm just disappointed in myself. Alright, I believe you. You're a strong girl, Michel. There aren't many who would have been scared. That wouldn't have been scared. I'll be sure to give Georges a stern talking to about his choice in friends. Something I learned today is that he's somewhat of a pushover. You're a lot more tenacious than I thought. As a woman in the world, you have to be. And if you're not, well, you'll figure it out soon enough, Michel. Of course, even as strong as you are, I'm sure it'll still be difficult for you to forget what happened to you today. Georges told me to forget it as soon as possible, and Amy that I wouldn't be able to. Was the difference in their individual perspectives, or was it the difference between the way men and women thought? I wasn't sure. As my heart rested against her breast, a bit of frustration slipped out. I couldn't move my arms at all. He didn't even seem all that strong. I couldn't believe that I was really so weak. That's just the way of the world, Michel. Men are physically stronger than women, so you'll almost never overpower one. You're not any weaker than a normal girl. Don't blame yourself. Though it wasn't a consolation I'd hoped for, her words still filled me with warmth. I had exploited for my own weakness to hear more of that soothing voice. And I also knew how foolish I was in doing so. Dang. Well, that was horrible. Amy frequently visited my chambers. I didn't know if it was mother's request or of her own volition, but I prayed it was the latter. She was a very touchy-feely person, and she seemed to have a particular fondness for playing with my hair. Whenever her voice danced its way into my ears, it would wreak havoc inside me. Being enveloped in her scent day after day stoked the fire growing within me. I did my best to remain as straight-faced as possible because the last thing I wanted was her catching on. I understood the things I was feeling were untoward, to say the least. Your hair is so utterly enchanting. Aww. I've never seen hair so white before. I think having color is much prettier. Oh, well, Georgia says white is a far more difficult color to make with paint. There's no greater challenge than capturing the beauty of true white. Living with such a splendid example of color must have given him a very high standard of quality. Say, Michel, maybe you can tell me about yourself today. I would love to get to know you better. Tell you about myself? Yeah, we could become even better friends if we had some mutual interests. I enjoy playing chess, and I consider myself quite good. Oh my, chess? I've never played. You're such a bright girl, Michel. Would you like to try? I could teach you. I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll pass. I doubt I'd be any good. Oh, okay. What else is there? Say, your favorite kind of flower, fragrance, color of gemstone. Are there any embroidery patterns you're particularly skilled at? I don't have any favorites, no. And I'm not especially good with a needle either. No? Do you have shaky hands then? I wouldn't say that, no. I'm fairly good with a knife, I think. A knife? Like a kitchen knife? No, a sculpting knife. Sculpting? Is that really so strange? It is a bit unusual, I'd say. But Georges does it all the time. His room is practically made of wood chips and charcoal and paint. Georges is an artist, and a man. There's nothing unusual about him doing some sculpting. Why is it okay for him, but not me? Does being a girl really make that much of a difference? Well, why don't we practice embroidery together, Michel? I get the feeling you spent too much time with your brothers. But now you have me. I'm sure it won't be long before you appreciate how much fun cooking and needlework can be. She sounds just like Mother. And she gives the same reason, too. Because I'm a girl. But that's not an explanation. It's a vague generalization. I said if I agree, I can spend more time with her. Okay. Wonderful. We'll come up with beautiful designs together. And when you've made something you're proud of, you can give it to a boy who catches your eye. Or if you prefer, you can give it to your father or brother. I would like Georges to have what I make, though. Oh, I've been wondering. Did you and Georges meet at the royal court? Oh, heavens, no. I've never been to court. One day my father told me I was getting married. And the next day was when we first met. Dang. Another downside to nobility. It happened that quickly? What, are you worried about me, Michel? Don't worry, I'm not disappointed with the agreement. In fact, I'm quite happy with it. Aristocratic marriages are almost always sudden. And as a woman, you get used to being a piece in their games. But Georges, he's different. He's a gentleman. A gentleman? Him? You sound surprised. I believe Hedonist suits him better. Oh, I disagree. I have complete faith he'll do good by me. I couldn't fathom where she found such confidence in him. Especially a man she'd only just met. How could she trust him at all? She was nothing but a pawn, and she knew it. So maybe she was simply putting on an act. I had trouble believing her smile was anything but genuine, though. One day you'll meet the right man for you, Michel. And he won't be a drunk like the guy from earlier. He'll be a kind, hard-working, respectable man. I would rather not find anyone. I suppose that's all still too soon for you, huh? Say, how old are you, Michel? 14. Oh, wow! I assumed you were younger. Do I really look that young? No hard feelings. You're just a tiny little doll, so small and slender. And look, not one bit of meat up here at all. Hey! She playfully grabbed me from behind and started prodding at my chest. As her delicate fingers slid across my skin, I found myself gripped by very indecent urges. Every heavy thump of my heart felt sinful. She couldn't know. I couldn't let her. Everything I'd been fighting to keep down came hurtling to the surface. You're so cold. You know that? She was touching me like it was nothing, caressing my hair. Was she this intimate with Georges? Or was it because I was the younger girl that she was so keen on putting her hands all over me? Before I understood what I was feeling, my body acted. It was pure, unfiltered impulse. Oh no. In my attempt to escape from her grip, I twisted around only to find my face inches from Amy's. Slowly gravitating closer, I pressed my lips against the corner of her mouth. Amy sat there, flabbergasted. I was equally aghast. I'm sorry. As I frantically put some distance between us, I'm sure my face was red as an apple, though I didn't know it at the time. Well, that was certainly unexpected. I'm sorry. Did I make you uncomfortable touching you so much? Amy was smiling, though it looked forced. No, not at all. Then I must have startled you. I'm sorry. If I had let go sooner, we could have avoided this accident. What do you mean, accident? A kiss on the lips is... It wasn't an accident. Oh, fetch. It wasn't, Amy. I seem to have confused you somewhat, Michel. What? I know I can be very touchy-feely with you, and you took that to mean you should do the same. No. You can't do that again, alright? If you want to kiss your friends, do it on the cheek. Save the lips for the man you love. I should get going then. George has started getting cranky if I don't give him enough attention. Hold on, Amy. So long, Michel. Not Michel. She wouldn't hear me out. Once Amy had fled my chambers, that was when I finally comprehended my own emotions. That she'd stolen my heart. That Amy was George's fiance. Not that it wasn't a problem. My body was not meant for her to love. Oh, confusing. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. I did have an interesting experience with this. I really didn't know how to handle it. I think I've mentioned it in another stream, but I had somebody who really took a liking to me. But it was a he. He was an exchange student. Oddly enough, from I believe he's he's either from Japan or Korea, but I'm pretty sure it was Japan. But I don't know. He was very forward, which is interesting. But like, I don't know. I was being nice to him, and like I was interested in learning more about him. We had a math class together. But I think he took it to be more than what I was saying. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm guessing that he felt pretty suppressed back in his home country. And that his chance to do an exchange in America might be a way for him to express feelings that he hadn't been able to express back home. And I guess he just kind of jumped at the chance of somebody who was being kind. Taking time to like talk to him, get to know him. I think he just mistook it for affection, when I simply was just curious and we wanted to be a friend. I remember being odd how focused he was on me, but I didn't really all that mind. But I remember there was one time, like, we were like kind of in downtime in math, where we could work together on projects, and I was sitting against the wall, and he sat down like right next to me, like our sides were touching, and he didn't have to. I remember thinking it was kind of weird, but like, I mean, I didn't think much of it. Till like I don't know, I said something that was like kind of a joke, and he laughed like louder than definitely was appropriate. Like, I'm not that funny. Like, that's, come on. And then he like placed his hand like on my knee and like lower thigh. And I mean, at this point, I definitely had like crushes on girls, but I'd never really been in a true relationship. Of course, I danced a girl. I kissed like my first girlfriend like a year before. And we held hands and stuff, but like, I don't know, it was so forward and so abrupt, and I did not handle it well. But in my defense, I was a teenager. I'd never been hit on by a guy before. It was very confusing, and I didn't really know what to do. And so I quietly found an excuse to get away, and I went to the office, and I explained how I'd been, like, how he'd made me feel uncomfortable, and I transferred out of the math class. Like, I went to a different one, and I never really saw him again. I think I passed him in the halls, but he never would look at me. I think he kind of understood that he had crossed the line, and I didn't reciprocate, but like, I also didn't handle it well. I could have talked to him about it, you know? Explained that I didn't feel that way. It would have still hurt, I'm sure. But I didn't know what to do. I was like 16, and I feel bad. I feel bad because I have a better appreciation for what he'd probably been going through. But I still feel bad. It's something that I regret. I feel like I could have handled it better. But I also know that I'm just genuinely not interested in that at all. Like, I don't know. A lot of us fall under a spectrum. A lot of us can, you know, find that like we can even comprehend it, or maybe like part of us like might be kind of interested. Like, for instance, I think a lot more people are bi than are willing to admit, just because I think there's a social pressure and there's a lot of confusion probably associated with it. But I know that's not me, and that's not a problem. I don't feel bad for that at all. I mean, that's the whole idea of being accepting, is the fact that we're all different. But I wish I'd handled that situation better. And I hope that in the future, if it happens again, I know how to handle it. Not very likely, I think, but it could happen. So, anyway, I just thought I'd share that, because like, I don't know if I've shared that detail of that story before, but I think it's applicable here, because Michel is really in a tough place here. And I was the Amy of the situation. Except at least Amy talked to Michel before running away. So, dang. Anyway, let's keep going. I woke in the middle of the night with a pain in my joints. Not enough exercise, I guess. I tried bending and stretching my arms and legs, but it did nothing. So after pondering on it for a bit, I decided to go for a late night walk to distract myself. As I approached the corridor adjacent to the courtyard, I heard a woman's voice. I'm still concerned about staying here. Amy's voice. Doing my best to remain perfectly quiet, I pressed myself up against the wall of the window to listen in on their conversation. I knew it was improper to eavesdrop, but the sound of her voice had me frozen in place. It's Michel. I'm afraid I've confused her. A tiny jolt ran down my spine, my muscles all tensed up at once. The sound of my name rising to her lips, but not in the way I would have liked. She kissed me. Well, almost, but how could I have guessed she thought of me that way? Mother told me she didn't have any female friends, and asked me to be one of hers, which is why... So she had only been coming to see me because Mother had asked her to. I had been afraid of that. Afraid that she wasn't there. to be with me, that she had no fondness for me, that my yearning for her was one-sided. She kind of scares me, the way she looks at me, always watching every little move I make. I'm sensitive to that sort of thing. I can tell what's going through Michel's mind. I managed to deflect it this time, but I should never have gotten friendly with her. She has seen through me from day one, and understood what I was feeling before even I had. It's disgusting, homosexuality. Oh, that hurts. Dang it, Amy, why do you have to be a reflection of me? I'm not sure. I don't think I really thought of it as disgusting per se. I definitely don't think I had an understanding, but remember, Amy's 15, I was about the same age. I didn't know how to handle it, and it was such an alien concept. Like, it did repulse me. But again, I don't know if it was the concept of it that really repulsed me, but more the fact that I had been the target of it unwittingly, and that those affections had just thrown me so far off base. I didn't know how to handle it, so I handled it with fear. And that's what's horrible about this kind of stuff. That's why it's so important to learn about other perspectives. Like, I don't care if you don't agree with the political side of stuff, but understand that there's no politics involved in this. This is people's feelings. This is how they are. And like, it hurts for her to say this, but a lot of people go through this misunderstanding. And I think that's one of the other downsides too, is like, I was young and made a foolish mistake. I did not understand, nor did I have any education about this. Like, my parents never sat me down and explained homosexuality to me. That was my first experience with it existing, period. It wasn't in television or media. It wasn't something that was brought up at the dinner table. And I didn't have any direct family that I knew of that were homosexual or trans or anything. And so my first experience was to be confronted with those emotions genuinely from another person. And it can be terrifying of any kind. Like, especially can you reflect on the first person that had a crush on you, that was like forward with it. Wasn't that kind of scary? You know, like, wasn't it kind of repulsive in a way, especially because if you didn't have that shared feeling for them, like, it could be scary and like disturbing and unhinging. But it shouldn't have been something I made personal, and I like to think that I didn't. Like, I transferred out of the class because I was really confused and I didn't want to, like, I couldn't handle the situation. And I'm sure he didn't see it that way. I'm sure it just felt like a horrible rejection, but that really wasn't what my intention was. But at the same time, I have to admit that, like, my lack of understanding led me to have some very unwholesome feelings. Like I said, I don't think it ever got to the level where I would call it disgust, but like, that's a real thing, and I'm ashamed of that. But I think it's also disturbing how we're also now living in a social kind of atmosphere where when we make mistakes in our past, there tends to be this attitude of like holding it against you for the rest of your life. There are people who are getting in trouble for things they said when they were young, despite like obvious changes. Like, sometimes it feels like socially we feel like people can't ever leave their past behind, and that it's cancel culture again. But like, I don't know. If that's the case, then I'm guilty too. I deeply regret it, like, wholeheartedly. It's not something I talk about because I'm so like saddened by the way I handled that. But I learned from that experience, and then through the rest of my like high school experience, I became so much more aware of what I'd done and what people go through and how they feel, and have made a lot of amendings to this attitude. Like, it really was born out of fear for me. Fear of not understanding and being kind of the center of this attention that I could not even truly comprehend on an emotional level. But I feel guilty for it all the same. I hope that doesn't make you look lesser on me, because it's a past thing. But more importantly, that experience has become a foundation for my understanding and respect for the LGBTQ community. It's legitimate. I truly do think that I have changed the way I see things because of these experiences I've had, and also just the friends I've made along the way. So I hope that that's not too disappointing or frustrating for you who's watching this, whoever you are. Know that a lot of times, I think, if you've ever experienced these types of emotions from people, I want to hope, especially in the youth, like the time of youth, that mostly it was out of a lack of understanding and a lack of education, like it was for me. Heck, my parents barely even gave me the sex talk when it came time for that. Like, I think we had 1 hour-long conversation with my dad where he explained it to me. And that was it. I figured the rest out on my own. So I plan to do better with my future kids, because I feel like they deserve better than me when it comes to this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's a lot on my chest. Let's see how this conversation ends. Homosexuality. Did I hear her right? Something inside me crumbled, and with it came an intense sense of wrongness. There I was again. That overpowering discomfort. That fear coursing through my veins. That repulsion. That irritation. That apprehension. What on earth was I? Did I view Amy as a member of the same sex? Were things I felt homosexual? See, that's an interesting idea too. Like something that I don't think a lot of us consider. Like, that's a difference between a homosexual feeling and a trans feeling. It's like Michel feels male in every respect. The biology of Michel's body just doesn't agree with that. And so for him, that's what makes this feel so natural. But on the outside, it would absolutely look like homosexuality. And maybe that's part of why, despite the fact that homosexuality is becoming more and more accepted just generally, transgenderism is still feeling a lot of kickback socially. I heard Amy sigh from far beyond the window. Then the man beside her, who she was confiding all this in, replied, "She's just a child." That voice. And one with underdeveloped social skills beside. Understand that she's going to do and say some inappropriate things. It's not uncommon for a child to mistake admiration for love. And I don't think that's until recently, but when she gets something in her head, she has a tendency to run with it without thinking. It was not the man I had assumed it was. Dieter. Yeah, I kind of thought it was him too. The other day, she asked me to let her be a knight. I can't imagine how she thought it would end any other way. Why? It's not very often there are women other than mother at the estate. I imagine she simply got nervous being around you and something got mixed up in her head. Why was Dieter out there with her? I hope that's all it was. Amy, hadn't you told me that you thought Georges was a gentleman? So what were you doing? Because yeah, this would be very, very inappropriate for the time. Getting so friendly with Dieter. And Dieter, weren't you my ally? Or was that all an act like her? You were going to be a knight. So why were you let out here with your brother's fiance? I'm glad to have you here, so I hope you can figure something out to make it work. I'll do what I can, but I am kind of reluctant to say this to you. But something has to change. As it is, she kind of grosses me out. Oh, knife to the soul. She grosses me out. So what? I was some kind of sick, disgusting creature? All I had done was show feelings for her. It couldn't be Georges or Dieter. The needles piercing me expanded, both in size and number. Soon I was being skewered by a dozen of them, and the heated sighs rising from the courtyard only served to make the pain worse. Heated sighs, so they actually are having a relationship. Fetch. All I could do was cover my ears and run. Dieter, what are you doing? Why? What are you doing out there, Dieter? How am I gross, Amy? It's not real. It's all a bunch of lies. This entire house is nothing but a fraud. None of this is ever real. The family gatherings, Amy's smiles, Dieter's kindness, George's... What about George's? Did he agree to the marriage knowing about them? What the heck are they thinking? You want to know who's really disgusting? Gosh darn it. I will not cry. I will not cry. I can't let myself. Girls cry. Tears for girls, not for me. I bit down hard on my lip and wrapped myself in my sheets and pressed my hands over my ears. Squeezed my eyes shut as tight as I could manage, tried to get away from the things I'd seen. Images of them embracing in the night threatened to float back into the surface, but I shook my head, casting them off. Praying I wouldn't have any nightmares, I drifted off to sleep. Veg. I think we should end it here. Man. What is Dieter doing? I don't know. It's tough. Because it's an arranged marriage, even if Dieter decided not to become a knight, there's no way they could ever, like, actually be together. Man, I don't know. This whole situation is so human again. It makes so much sense. But so hard. And poor Michel. Michel is just... It's amazing that he even figured things out the way he does, you know? Dang. I know this one ends well, because we know what happens, but... Oh, and that also makes why Giselle's comments about it being disgusting, him being disgusting. That hurt a lot. Dang. What are we gonna do? What is Michel gonna do? I don't know. Well, I'm depressed. It's gonna take a bit. I think a lot of it has to also do with the memories I kind of bore before and just kind of sadness there. I did get my comeuppance though. One of the girls that I was super interested in about the same time as that event happening, she turned out to be homosexual herself, but hadn't really come to terms with it. And so she was beautiful. We got along super well. We were very close friends, but she was like kind of coming to the realization of what she was feeling and how she and like who she was and how she felt. And so like when the truth came out, like that was hard for me to hear. But again, like at that point I had become a lot more adjusted to the idea, and I never like took it personally or held it against her. Thankfully it didn't take me long to really reason out that like just because people feel differently than me doesn't mean that I shouldn't care for them as people and to be kind and understanding. So I'm grateful for that. That it only took me like within a year I was pretty accepting of people who were different and thought differently than me. Because the thing is that no matter how you feel about people who are trans or homosexual or who dress drag or anything that could be considered kind of strange or maybe different or obtuse from what you grew up experiencing, they're people. They have so much more in common with you than you ever could realize. And it's as silly, being discriminatory against them is as silly as being racist. Like, it makes no sense. There's no reason for it. It's just bigotry. But I also understand that it's a journey. It's an experience. Like, we should all be allowed to grow. And to not have our mistakes hang over our heads for the rest of our lives. And I make up for it by being an advocate and being someone who stands with people who feel differently, who are different, who live different lives than I do. And I'm proud of that. And I encourage you to do the same. Take an opportunity of playing a game like the House of Fata Morgana to really try and experience something that you might not have considered. You know, let people be people and know that feelings are real. They're not made up, they're not choices. These things are part of people. They're as much a part of them as your arm is a part of you. And asking them just to like ignore it would be like trying to tell you to just like cut your arm off. Or to at the very least like try effectively like let it hang slack and never use it. I don't know. Just be good people. Let's all strive to be better people, no matter what situation we're in or who we're talking to. Anyway, a lot of rambling for me this episode, but I think it's important to say, and I've got a lot of strong feelings about this stuff. Like I said, I've made mistakes, and I like to think that like by recognizing that, I can be a better person. So thanks for hearing me out on that. I hope you don't think less of me, but you know, the truth is the truth. I'm a different person now. Oh, that's pretty clear. And I look forward to continuing the story. I feel like we're building up to it. I don't know how much more we're going to have before this is over, but I'm guessing that things are going to come to a head here pretty soon, where the family is going to kind of implode, and Michel is going to be the center of it all, unfortunately. But we shall see, we shall see. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. As always, it's a pleasure having you here. And in case you missed it, I recently did a collaborative stream with Melty and Melty on Twitch. It was really, really fun. We played Dream Daddy. It was a blast, and we're going to continue because we really enjoyed it. And then I'm also going to have her featured on the channel here. We've got some ideas in the works. But yeah, so it's archived on her channel if you want to check it out. And then I'm also going to be doing it again. So if you're free on Saturdays, it's going to be Saturdays at 7 o'clock Pacific or 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I would love to see you there. But until the next video you're watching me, I hope to see me next. I'll see you there.